A recent wildfire in Northern California scorched more than 90,000 acres. The fire was allegedly started by an improperly installed electric livestock fence. In this week's Rural Safety segment, electric fence tips to keep your operation protected. Joining us now is Progressive Agriculture Foundation CEO Brian Kuhl. Thanks for joining us, Brian. What should livestock owners do to prevent a potential fire from their electric fence?
Progressive Agriculture Safety Day program, we teach kids about the fire triangle, or the three components that are needed to create a fire. If you don't have all three of those components, you don't have a fire. Now, those three things are oxygen, fuel, and heat. And in the story you're referencing, the fuel, of course, is all that dried grass or underbrush that's been dried out due to drought. And the heat source is that improperly installed fence. So again, if we can control one or more of those three components, the risk of fire is greatly reduced. So let's start by controlling the fuel or the dried grass or that brush. It's important to control the weeds, grass, brush, and trees that may come in contact with your fence or simply be around your fence. A spark created by electric fence that has found a path to ground through a metal fence post or a building can be the heat needed to start a fire in that combustible material below. And while we're talking about that electric charge, we should also talk about the energizer or the controller, which is responsible for the nature of that electronic pulse. A safe controller will send a short electric pulse lasting a maximum of 1/10 of a second, and it sends that quick pulse about every second or so. These controllers should be installed per the instructions that come with them and should bear the underwriter's laboratory seal of approval. Where a farmer or rancher may run into the risk of creating a fire is if they have a controller which in some cases has been called a weed burner. These controllers operate with a much longer electric pulse, sometimes up to a few seconds at a time. A controller like this is sold under the pretense that it creates a convenience to the farmers by eliminating fence-line weeds, but that also does increase the risk of fire with those weeds surrounding the fence. There are also controllers on the market labeled as continuous current controllers, which instead of sending quick electric pulses, they send a continuous flow of voltage through the wire at all times. The longer the duration of electric flow passing through your wire is what increases the risk of fire when a grounded object like a steel fence post comes in contact with the fence and that combustible material surrounding the object to create the fire. Again, if we can control or eliminate the fuel or the heat, we can greatly reduce the risk of fire.
Well, Brian, thank you very much for all of this. It's a good reminder to be safe around electric fences. That is Progressive Agriculture Foundation CEO Brian Kuhl. Brian, thanks a lot for joining us.